Humanity has always looked upward throughout history, but there are still places on Earth we know far too little about. The deep blue. If you were to take a brief journey across its surface, you would likely find yourself lost in its vast and endless blue, an experience unlike any other. But in this video, instead of admiring the dazzling shimmer of the surface, we'll set out on a captivating journey to a place that lies kilometers below, where mysterious forms of life exist far from the light. This is not just an ocean, it is more like a rift opening into the Earth itself. Now, we turn our course to the lowest point on Earth. This is the Mariana Trench. This story goes way, way back to when dinosaurs wandered the planet. About 180 million years ago, something started to shift deep under the ocean. The Pacific Plate began sliding under the lighter Philippine Plate. Geologists call this subduction. It didn't happen overnight. It took millions of years. As the plates moved, the ocean floor sank and got dragged down into the Earth. All that slow-motion drama eventually carved out the deepest place on the planet, the Mariana Trench. Now, this trench stretches for about 2,500 kilometers along the Pacific Ocean floor just east of the Philippines. At its deepest spot, Challenger Deep, it plunges over 11 kilometers down. Just to put that in perspective, Mount Everest, the tallest mountain on Earth, stands at about 9 kilometers. If you dropped Everest into the trench, the peak would still be underwater. But the Mariana Trench isn't just about depth. Its location matters too. It sits in the Pacific Ring of Fire, a massive zone nearly 40,000 kilometers long, where most of the world's earthquakes and volcanic eruptions shake things up. By the late 1800s, the oceans were still mostly a big question mark for everyone. Then, in 1872, the HMS Challenger set off from Britain, and everything started to shift. Over 4 years, this ship covered almost 70,000 miles, circling the globe. The technology back then? Pretty basic. To figure out how deep the ocean was, the crew would tie heavy metal weights to the end of a rope and lower it overboard. It was slow, tough work, and honestly, not cheap either. In 1875, while the Challenger was near Guam, the crew tried to measure the ocean's depth. The rope wasn't long enough, so they kept tying on more, again and again. Still, the weight just kept dropping. Finally, they got a reading, and it shocked everyone. They'd found the deepest spot ever measured at the time. Nobody really understood how important that was right away. But that single reading, it led to the discovery of the Mariana Trench and kicked off modern oceanography. And here's the twist. The Challenger wasn't even supposed to be out there for science. Its job was to make military maps, find good shipping routes, and check out spots for underwater cables. The big scientific discovery? That was almost an accident. Just a surprise bonus from a trip that was supposed to be all about strategy and navigation. Time moved on, and technology didn't sit still. By 1951, everything shifted. Suddenly, ships had a new trick for measuring depth. They'd send out sound waves, then listen for the echoes bouncing back. People started calling it sonar. That year, HMS Challenger II used this method to check the Mariana Trench again. The results left no doubt. The Mariana Trench really was the deepest spot on Earth, about 36,000 feet down, or close to 11,000 meters. They named that spot after the ship that found it first, Challenger Deep. Finally, people knew exactly where the planet's deepest point was. But that raised a new question. How on earth could anyone ever get down there? When you hear about the Mariana Trench, the big question that always pops up is simple. Can a person actually make it all the way down there? The problem isn't lack of curiosity. It's the insane pressure. At Challenger Deep, the pressure is almost 1,000 times what you feel at sea level. That's enough to crush the human body, and honestly, most metal machines wouldn't survive either. Back in the 1950s, most people thought the deepest part of the ocean was totally out of reach. But Auguste Piccard, a Swiss scientist, didn't just toss the idea aside. He went after it with engineering. His solution was the bathyscaphe, basically a tiny steel sphere built to spread out the crushing force all around. The bathyscaphe Trieste was his big gamble. Fast forward to January 23, 1960. Jacques Piccard, Auguste's son, and Don Walsh from the U.S. Navy climbed into Trieste and started their drop into the abyss. It took 5 hours to get down. The deeper they sank, the darker it got, until they were surrounded by total blackness. You can imagine the pressure pressing in on the walls. At one point, they even heard a sharp crack from one of the tiny windows, a moment that would have sent most people straight back to the surface. But they kept going. They made it. They reached Challenger Deep, the lowest spot on Earth. Even with their tiny windows, they could see the soft, silty bottom. This wasn't just some technical victory. It was proof that humans could stare down the harshest conditions anywhere on the planet. And here's the wild part. After that dive, nobody went back for 52 years. That one mission showed just how slim the margin for survival really was. These days, most dives into the Mariana Trench are left to unmanned subs. It's just safer that way. The ocean isn't just one big, open space. It's a whole stack of layers, and each one has its own story. As you dive deeper, everything changes. Light disappears, the water gets colder, and pressure climbs fast. With every shift, the creatures living there figure out their own ways to survive. Right at the top, there's the epipelagic zone. It stretches about 200 meters down, and it's the only spot where sunlight really gets through. Tiny phytoplankton float here, and even though they're small, they pump out almost half the oxygen we breathe. That makes this layer the beating heart of ocean life. You'll find huge schools of fish, jellyfish drifting by, sharks on the hunt, and dolphins weaving through the light. Drop below 200 meters, and you hit the mesopelagic or twilight zone. This stretch goes down to about 1,000 meters. Sunlight barely makes it here. It's more gloom than glow. Animals in this zone don't care much about seeing. They care about not being seen. Some have eyes made to catch the last scraps of light. Others just make their own. Bioluminescence is the name of the game, whether it's for hunting, dodging predators, or finding a mate. Past 1,000 meters, there's the bathypelagic, or midnight zone. Sunlight's gone for good, and it's pitch black except for what little light the creatures themselves create. Anglerfish dangle a glowing lure to trick prey, and giant squid use their massive eyes to spot even the faintest flicker in the dark. Food is hard to come by, so everything down here moves slowly, saves energy, and hangs on as long as it can. If you keep going, past 4,000 meters, you end up in the Hadal zone. Pressure is almost 1,000 times stronger than at the surface. Temperatures barely budge. Sunlight doesn't matter anymore. Instead, the seafloor cracks open at hydrothermal vents, spewing out hot, mineral-rich water. Tiny microbes thrive on these chemicals, pulling off chemosynthesis using chemical reactions, not sunlight, to make energy. These little guys are the backbone of life in the Hadal zone. Around them, you get sea snails, giant amphipods, ghostly sea cucumbers, and fish built to handle crushing pressure. Take the Mariana snailfish, for example. It lives deeper than almost any other fish. It looks soft, almost squishy, but its cells are built for the depths. If you tried to bring it up, it just wouldn't make it. For these creatures, the real threat isn't the deep. It's the surface. Back in 1997, NOAA's deep-sea hydrophones caught something odd, rumbling up from the ocean's depths. wasn't waves or an earthquake, and nothing about it matched any marine animal researchers knew about. The sound just didn't fit. For years, nobody could figure out what made it. Then, in 2014, the weird noise showed up again. Scientists dug into the data and eventually figured out it came from a minke whale, though not in any way they'd heard before. Still, the puzzle stayed unsolved. Why did these sounds only turn up in certain places or at certain times? Even now, nobody has all the answers. The Mariana Trench isn't just deep. It's like a time capsule buried in the planet, a record of what Earth used to be. Life down there stretches the limits of what's possible. This is where human curiosity gets pushed hardest. Somewhere in that black water, there are probably creatures nobody's ever seen. And when we finally get the tech to dive down again, who knows what we'll find? Down in the deepest ocean, the real story is still waiting. Until the next video, take care.